Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph. And welcome back to Read It Down, but it's remixed. It's gonna be new, it's refreshed. I know that some of y'all don't know what Read It Down is, but I did recently post a video where I kind of explain what Read It Down is and the fact that it's gonna change. So I'm gonna link that down below because I don't wanna waste too much of your time re-explaining an old version of this video. I would rather explain the new way that this is gonna work. At its core, it's just a fun little challenge for me to read my own TBR. And previously I had friends on it, and now we're gonna do it a little bit differently. So I have two jars here. One of these jars are booktubers and the other jar is prompts. This time around, instead of asking people to send me a clip over of what they picked for me, I will be picking a booktuber and I'll be checking out their channel. And the first video that I click on, whether it's a wrap up, a TBR, a vlog, the first book in that video that I own and have not read, I have to read. I'm excited about this because the heart of Read It Down for me was being able to showcase people that I really loved on YouTube. And so I wanted to keep that as a part of this series. So this has a bunch of booktubers that have actually been recommended to me through Patreon. So most of these are recommendations from people on Patreon. So there are quite a few people that I haven't watched regularly and I'm very excited to check out their channels. And some of them are ones that I've put in here because why not? And then we have a prompt. So we will be picking one prompt. Again, most all of these were submitted by my patrons over on Patreon, but I do have some that I put in myself because again, why not? But yeah, I'll be picking one prompt, one booktuber, and then just like the original Read It Down, I am allowing myself a mood read. So we will read in total 3 books. And I'm really excited to see how chaotic this gets, especially because my rule literally was the first book that I own, I have to read it. I don't get a choice. It's whatever one they mention first. Also, I have decided that I'm not gonna pick all of the books at the beginning of the video. I'm gonna do it as I go because I think that'll be a little more fun, a little more chaotic because I have no idea what's coming next. So I'm going to choose the prompt first this time around. Let's pick our prompt. So you can see it first, if that even focuses. I can't tell if it's focusing or not. But it says a book that matches your outfit, and this is from Lori. You know what would have been perfect if I hadn't already read it? Lost and Lassoed, yeah. Let's go look at the shelves. Okay, I have a few green books. I think I'm gonna make Jared decide which one's closest to my sweater. But before I do that, I'll show you what we got. We have Make the Season Bright, Daughter of the Forest, Across the Green Grass Field, Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. I feel like this has too much blue in it. Midnight Bargain, Wolf Song, and The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. I should say that I do have black sweats on. So there's a few in here that I don't think actually work, but we're gonna make Jared decide. I think these two? Mm-hmm. Which one the most? This one. Oh, that's the winner. So Jared's final verdict was Across the Green Grass Field by Shauna McGuire because he said that the green here and here matched really well, and then my black pants for the bottom. So he said out of all the books, this was the one that matched the most, and we have to go with Jared. You know, we've got to. In Papa Cowboy Jared we trust. I'm actually very excited about this. This is the 6th, I believe, book in the Wayward Children series. And I was catching up on this last year and then I stopped again. I don't really know why because I always love them when I'm reading them, but I probably just got distracted by something else. So we are going to be picking this back up and I'm really excited. I think Heather got this for me. She did. She got this as a birthday gift for me because she loves this series. So I'm really excited to dive back into it. I know this one is the horse girl one, which I'm very excited about as a horse girl at heart who's never owned a horse. I'm really excited about this. Hi, it's Editing Stephanie here. I lost all of the footage about Across the Green Grass Field. I initially had 2 updates about this book, and I got a new external hard drive and I was transferring over some things, and I'm guessing it just got lost in the mix and I accidentally deleted it, so I do not have those updates for you. But I'm going to try my best to give you my final thoughts of this book. So far as I remember, because I have taken a long time to read through this series, so it's possible that I'm misremembering something, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But so far as I remember, this is the first one that's like you could skip it if you needed to because it doesn't follow anybody that we've met, and I don't know that this character is going to become prevalent in any way, shape, or form in the future. And you know, I should have skipped this one. I'm gonna just say it right off the bat, I did not like this. I didn't like it, and I feel like it has been the catalyst to me questioning if I actually love this series enough to continue on, because while I enjoy all of these books, I don't love them. Like, I'm not obsessed with them. I don't anticipate their release, and so I just feel like I could put this series down and be okay. This particular installment has been characterized as the book for the horse girls, the girls who love the horses. This is your book, and like, sure. Sure, it is, okay? She literally goes into a world with centaurs and like talking horses, there's unicorns, there's kelpies, and other magical equine. Is that how you say that word? It's that. That's what this book is. And for me, this read very middle grade. It read very, very middle grade. And quite honestly, that's something that I really struggled with the 3rd book in this series, which is Beneath the Sugar Sky, I believe. That was, up until this moment, my least favorite in the series, but this one definitely takes the cake for me. I just really did not enjoy it. I really didn't. It read so young, and it just felt jarring. It didn't even feel like it was really part of the Wayward Children series. I didn't connect with the main character. I didn't find the world to be that appealing or interesting or fun. I felt like we spent way too much time on the issues within the real world that get her to the door, because I don't think we even enter into this world until like 20% into the book. So we spent a good portion of the time with our main character kind of wanting to escape reality because she feels so different from her friends, and she feels like she's growing apart from a lot of the girls in her school, which is very valid. And I think that was what was contributing so much to it feeling like a middle grade. And then we get into the world and it felt even more like I was in a middle grade book. And I know that a lot of these characters are young, so it makes sense. But I guess for me, like, this series just has never felt middle grade. It's never felt young, even though we're following younger characters, which I'm very aware of. So it was just a really jarring installment. And so yeah, it just made me question if I really want to continue on with the series. So I think that maybe I'm gonna have to break up with Sean McGuire, or at least just stop trying for a time. Maybe there will be something that comes out that intrigues me. So yeah, this one just absolutely was not for me. But to be completely honest, if it weren't for this video, I don't know when I would have picked up any more in this series. 'Cause like I said, I don't actually ever anticipate these books, and I never think about reading them. I honestly, my favorite books in the series are the first 2 and Come Tumbling Down, and I don't even think I gave any of them 5 stars. So sad day for me. Hello, so we're here to pick the booktuber, and the way this is gonna work is I'm obviously gonna pick a name out of this jar, and it's gonna have a booktuber's name on it, and then we're gonna explore their page together, and I'm gonna watch the first video that has like maybe a list of books in it, and the first book that they mention that I own, I have to read it. That's what I'll be reading. Okay, so let's pick the booktuber. I'm really excited. Okay, oh, you can see it first. Is it upside down? I don't know if you can tell what that says, but it says Katie is reading from Thai. Okay, so let's explore Katie's channel. I have subscribed to Katie and I have watched a few of their videos before, and I really enjoy their content. It's very cozy, it's very calming. They do a lot of reading vlogs, which I love personally. That's some of my favorite content to consume. And I do believe that they read a bit of romance, like fantasy romance. So I'm very excited for this because this could bode very well for me. But what I want to do is I want to watch a few videos. I obviously can't watch them fully with you, but as you can see, there are tons of reading vlogs. There's some TBRs on here. Let's go book shopping, 2024 bookshelf tour. I feel like Katie does all of the things that I really love on BookTube, the things that I really like to consume. So I am gonna watch the first video, like I said, which is a reading vlog. It says a new crochet project, 3 great books, and a trip. It's cut off. So I'm excited to watch this one. I will, with you, scrub through it and see if there's anything in here that I own that I could possibly read. From the thumbnail, Funny Story is in the thumbnail, which I have already read, but I can't tell what the other book is. So let's hope. But if not, we'll move on to the next video until we find a book that's on my TBR. This worked out perfectly because I have had Sword Heart on my TBR for the last 2 years. I've had this book for 2 years and I keep saying I'm gonna get to it because I love a cozy fantasy romance. So far, the vibe has been that I've liked cozy fantasy romance, but I think I put this one off because I've been very hit or miss with Sea Kingfisher, but I'm very excited. And I loved Katie's review of it. So we'll be reading Sword Heart, and this actually fits my mood really well because I'm wanting like cozier fantasies, cozier books. I also think that this is just like the perfect vibe for Katie because I do find that their channel is very cozy to me, very comforting, and I just love the overall cozy vibes. So this just feels right. This just feels perfect.
But Sword Heart, let's talk about it. Let me tell you what it's about. We are following our main character, Hala, who receives this inheritance from her uncle when he dies, which seems like it should be a really good thing. However, it is not. She married into this family, so they don't really see her as having a legitimate claim to any of the money. So they keep trying to get her to marry her cousin, Alver, and obviously she says no. So they get really mad and they lock her in her room for like 3 days until she relents, basically. So she's having an awful go of it. She is not thinking any of this is worth it. The money is not worth it. So she tries to end the situation by taking a sword off the wall and like plunging it through her, which sounds like it might be a little bit of a morbid way to start out a book, but I promise it is actually very humorous because she is going through some mental gymnastics to figure out how she like holds the sword and like falls on it at the same time. So she's trying to figure out how to accomplish that. Basically, she takes off her like shirt and whatever so the fabric doesn't get in the way, and then she unsheathes that's so hard to say, unsheathes the sword, and there's this flash of blue light. This dude just pops into the room and he's like, would you put some clothes on? So that is, you know, that's the meet cute, basically.
What's it like inside your mind, my dear?
Looks like we're making a big daddy today, so we've got to switch over to this bigger mug. I don't know if you can tell how much bigger it is, but it's bigger.
You always let me know. You never let it show,
Morning, friends. It is Monday and I'm sure that I've talked about it in another video, but I don't really know when I'm posting things at this point just because my brain has been all over the place. But we've been having horrible fires here in LA, and I am in like a red flag area, so I'm supposed to stay on alert about evacuation. It's been really hard to do anything, to motivate myself to do anything, not only because it's just like a very tense time, an unknown time, but it's also very emotional. I know people who've lost their homes. A lot of tears shed, a lot of unknowns, a lot of feeling tense and not knowing really what to do. So yeah, I ran out earlier today and dropped off some more donations that I didn't get a chance to drop off yesterday or Saturday. I was also hoping to go out today and like help out somewhere, but they are turning away help left and right because they're at capacity with volunteers, which also incredible. But because of that, I don't want to sit at home and doom scroll anymore. I don't want to sit at home and just cry. I need to do something a little bit normal, and it feels very weird to do anything normal. I can't lie to you. It feels very wrong. It feels very weird, but I need to clean my house. I have not cleaned my house in over a week at this point because of just everything going on. We have our go bags out there. It's like feeling very claustrophobic. Right before the fires happened, I had done a huge decluttering of the house, and I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to donate places. We have shit everywhere, and if you know me, I can't handle that. My brain can't handle it. So alongside doom scrolling and my house being just cluttered, I'm not doing well. Not doing well, babes. I just need something normal. I need something normal, and it's not even funny. I just don't even know how to cope. Okay, we have a couple things to talk about. One is important, it's a book update, and the other couple of things are not important at all. First and foremost, my next door neighbors, they have been working on their house, like extending their house for the past couple of months. They took a break during the holidays, which was just like such serenity for me, you know? But they are back to fixing it, and it's just gonna be in the background of these videos. I can't avoid it. And the hope is that it's actually far enough away from the mic that you can't hear it. But if you do hear something annoying in the background, I'm so sorry. Also, today I'm finally getting my hair done. I've been desperately needing a trim, especially for my bangs. And she's gonna do a color refresh. Here's the thing, I really wanna start going more like caramelly, but I didn't give her enough notice. I decided after I had booked this appointment that I think I wanted to start getting away from the red. Not that I don't like it, I love it. I have loved my time with it. But I wanted to try something a little bit different, and so I'm gonna talk to her about it today, but I have no expectations of getting it done today. So I genuinely don't know what my hair is gonna look like. All I know is I'm just excited to get a trim because my bangs have not been banging. At this point, they're no longer bangs. They're just like this weird thing that I'm doing with the front of my hair. Third, I need to tell you a story. You know these little guys? They're called strawberry bonbons, if you don't know. I love these things, and I'm not taking criticism. I'm not taking critiques of it. I love these things. Grew up eating these things. My grandma used to have these all the time, and I love them, okay? But the one thing about a strawberry bonbon is that it has a chewy center. At least all of the ones that I grew up with have a chewy center, okay? So in my break room at work, they had a huge bag of these, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen these in so long. I don't even know where you buy these at this point because my stock all came from my grandma. So I grab a few. I'm so excited. I'm ready to bite into it, get that chewy center, just be brought back to childhood, transported back to childhood. Why was it not a chewy center? Why was there not a chewy center in it? So I was like, okay, must be a defect. Ate another one. No chewy center. Almost a broken tooth. And I'm like, these are not the strawberry bonbons that I know and love. So I'm dramatically telling Jared this story and like how upset I am. And he comes home and he has a handful of them, and he was like, I don't know what's going on, but my work had a bunch of strawberry bonbons He was like, and I tested one out and it does in fact have a chewy center. So we're back, baby. We're back. Lastly, and most importantly, I'm reading Sword Heart and I am halfway through. This bookmark's actually wrong. So I'm on chapter 30. I was listening to the audiobook all day yesterday as I was cleaning the house. And this is truly what I needed to get me out of my like slumpy feeling with books. I've just had a really rough start with reading in 2025, and then obviously all of the natural disasters and life circumstances that are happening right now hasn't made reading any easier. But this has really helped me. I love the humor, love the couple. This world is really interesting, and I just immediately got sucked in. I've been giggling and kicking my feet at this story. And it's funny because T. Kingfisher is so hit or miss for me. It's also interesting because T. Kingfisher isn't someone that I necessarily can pinpoint what her style is. That being said though, I feel with her fantasy, it leans a little bit more on the cozy side and a little bit silly. And I guess that is something that like exists in her horror, because there are some horror books that I've read by her that are a little bit too silly and humorous, which is why I didn't really enjoy them, and what has taught me that I don't really love humor in my horror books. But yeah, her fantasy leans a little silly, a little humorous, and kind of cozy, like despite the fact that people are getting killed in here. You know, the main character, one of the main characters, Sarkis, he is quite literally a sword, and he's definitely killing people. We are seeing that, but for some reason this still just feels so cozy to me, and maybe it's the humor and the silliness that's attached to it, where things don't feel that high stakes, even though they definitely are high stakes. It just doesn't like fully feel that way. That being said, I'm just having a really great time, and I love the two main characters. So at the beginning of the story, we meet Hala, and Hala, her guardian at this point, has died. She is a widow. She's in her late 30s. I believe she's 36, and she is stuck in a horrible situation because now that her guardian has passed away, her in-laws are trying to steal her inheritance that they feel they're entitled to. But because Hala won't give in to their requests, they lock her in a room and they're like, we're gonna make things right. We are going to get this inheritance from you. You're not deserving of this. And she's like, you know what would make life easier? If I just impale myself on this sword and take myself out of the equation. So she's quite literally trying to impale herself on the sword, and little does she know is that this sword is a man named Sarkis. And because the previous owner, who was her guardian, died, it has been passed down to her, and she is now the wielder, the carrier, the owner of this sword. And so it is Sarkis's purpose to protect her. And they go on this long adventure so far to try and find someone who can help her kind of prove that this inheritance is hers and give her some semblance of protection. So that is where I'm at. They're on this journey. They're in the midst of this journey to find someone to help her. And there have been bandits, there have been inns, there's been the one bed trope, and I'm having a really great time. I guess the one thing that I haven't really read from T. Kingfisher, now that I think about it, is a straight up fantasy romance, because I feel like Nettle and Bone wasn't exactly a fantasy romance, but I could be wrong. I read it so long ago, I don't really remember it that well. I just remember enjoying it at the time. And also a signature for T. Kingfisher is definitely an older female protagonist, and I really enjoy that. We don't have enough of that, but I am kind of hoping that it is part of the Paladin's Grace series, because I did start reading that series a while ago and my library hold ran out, so I never got to finish it. If it is set in the same world, that would be really cool, because I'm like, oh, what if we have a few callbacks to these two? Look at me, already missing them, and I haven't even finished the book. Okay. Hello. We got my hair done, and I'm a caramel queen. You're not gonna be able to see it in this lighting, but my hairdresser is incredible, 10 out of 10, and she was like, let's just do the caramel, babe. Let's just do the caramel. I always feel weird when my hair is like super straight. I do straighten it at times, but I never like fully straighten my hair. I always just like straighten the front parts, and the rest is still kind of the mess that it is. So it always is weird leaving the salon and like looking at myself, because I just don't feel like myself. Sorry, I need to adjust the angle a little bit. But since my last update and being at the salon, I was able to finish Sword Heart, and I loved this. Oh my god. This was so fun. This was making me giggle from the very beginning. Like the moment that they meet each other, the moment that Hala is trying to impale herself on a sword and the interaction that they have, I was giggling. And I kind of just had that feeling that this would be a new favorite book. There's something about their dynamic. There's something about the humor in here that worked really well for me. You know, something else that really stuck out to me was, I think it was a couple videos back where I was complaining a little bit about not knowing if I like quest books anymore, because I had read like 2 quest books in a row and they really didn't work for me because I thought the pacing was really off in them, and it made me question if I even like quest books anymore. Like had I grown out of love with them? Well, guess what? This convinced me that I just needed the right quest book because the pacing was so well done in here. Like I was enjoying the quest. I was along for the ride. I was in it with them. I was so excited when they would get to an inn, and would they get a second bedroom or not? Like it was just really fun following them on this journey, and also seeing both of our main characters grow through this journey together and like fall in love with each other. And it was a good length of time where their time together and the way that they fell for each other really made sense. I don't know, just all aspects of this worked super well for me. I think the only thing that I had a little bit of trouble with, I guess, is the very, very end. It just felt kind of rushed. That's where the pacing fell off, but I still loved it. I'm still rooting for this couple, and I just really, really love Sarkis. I really love Sarkis, but I really love Hala too, because at times she presents herself as a very dumb woman, and you begin to see that that's like a ploy. That's a persona that she puts on to make men leave her alone. And I'm like, if I couldn't love you more, if I couldn't love you more. Like I said earlier, this to me feels cozy. There's like a cozy vibe to it, but I would hesitate to call it a cozy fantasy because I don't think that the stakes are low enough. And I also don't think that this is like all vibes, because there is a very clear plot. There's a very clear adventure here. There's a romance, there's high stakes, there's definitely death. There's a very interesting religious system in here that I haven't done my research yet. I actually have not done my research because I finished this at the salon. I do actually think that this is part of the Paladin's Grace series. You know what? Let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment and turn on my librarian brain and do a little research. 1 second. So yes, this is set in the Paladin's Grace world, and oh my god, I'm now wishing that I had Paladin's Grace, because I would totally read that as my mood read at this point. I do have the ebook. Ooh, much to ponder. Anyway, really, really loved this. I highly recommend, especially if you're already a fan of T. Kingfisher's fantasy worlds. I really think that you'll enjoy this, but especially if you loved Nettle and Bone, because I feel like the humor was so similar. Also, if you are looking for an older protagonist, I'm pretty sure most all of T. Kingfisher's fantasy romances have at least a 35 plus main character, and I love that. I really love seeing that. And this is not a comparison in the sense of like that I think the books are similar, like if you're gonna like one you're gonna like the other, because I don't think the other has the same type of humor in it. But I do think that if you enjoyed Radiance by Grace Draven, if you like that type of fantasy romance, you may enjoy this, but I don't necessarily think that that's the greatest comparison. There's just something about the way that I loved this book and the things that I loved about this book that were really reminiscent of the reasons I loved primarily the romance in Radiance. That's where I think the comparison for me begins and ends, is that the romance, it's like older main characters, and the fact that they're in like this forced proximity situation, they slowly fall for each other. It's not like this immediate attraction that happens, like they're just interested in each other and they start to fall for each other, and the romance just feels very delicate and kind and extremely loving and respectful. I think that's why it felt so similar to Radiance for me. It's just the way the characters fall for each other and the way that there's this very mutual respect that you can completely feel in this relationship. I haven't been reading a lot in the beginning of this year, but that has spurred me to want to read more. So I would say that I would pivot to the ebook of Paladin's Grace because I'm like in this world. And maybe I should do that anyway. Maybe I should check if the audiobook is available at my library. Okay, we're gonna see if it's available at my library, the audiobook, because I have the ebook, but I want to listen to something while I'm working on my reading journal and stuff tonight. So let's see if it's available. Would you look at that? It's available at my library. There's something about a main character named Steven in a fantasy world that just doesn't sit right with me, but you know what, I borrowed it and I think we're gonna read it. Also, apparently this series is called The Saint of Steel. Wait, that's interesting. I wonder, okay. What? There's 4 books in this series? I thought it was a trilogy. I'm learning so much today. Also, if you have Hoopla, they're all on Hoopla. Hello friends, so I just showered. Doing my eye mask. I'm trying to be really cozy, and as a matter of fact, I'm trying to up my cozy, and you are probably asking yourself how you can do that. You're already just so cozy. But you know what I haven't done yet, which I think is like ultimate cozy, is to set up a Kindle page turner and also get like something that holds my Kindle, right? I haven't gotten that yet. I'm still researching what I want to do, because these little guys, this little guy, it's not really gonna hold one of those arm things that well. I'm also really afraid it's gonna like damage something on here, because this isn't the most high quality wood, to be honest with you. And once Goose decided to chew on one of these and his teeth marks are all in it, so I'm a little fearful of that. But my dear friend Liz gifted me one of the Kindle page turners, so I'm going to set that up. I got it to work, and then I realized that I don't really have any way to use this. I can probably find a pillow or something. Also, the other really cool thing that I want to work on tonight is this journal. So it's a DIY journal that my coworker, my work bestie, she got for me. So you can see there's like all these holes in the front, and it's because there is this string in the back and you can create a design on the front. So I think I'm gonna do that. It does say that you can choose to follow a template, or you can freestyle your embroidery for your new journal. Okay, and it's a lined one. This is so fun. Okay, well, I'm actually gonna make soup first because I'm hungry, and then I'm gonna do this for the rest of the night. Last night, while doing some chores, I started Paladin's Grace, and then I crawled into bed and I read it for probably 2 hours or something. I've been listening to it this morning while I'm like getting ready for the day before I have to go to work, and I am actually 50% into the book. It has flown by. It's funny because this is reading super fast and I am enjoying it, but I'm not fully as absorbed into this one as I was Sword Heart, and I think it's just because I'm not like sold on the romance at the moment. Individually, I really like our main characters. characters, although arguably Steven feels like a more interesting character at this moment, and that's just simply because of his storyline. But I do like Grace. That is our female love interest. We are introduced to her very early on in the book, but we don't get a POV from her for a while. And so I think maybe just because I have spent so much time with Steven before meeting Grace, I'm still kind of getting to know her. So at the start of this book, we're actually given a little bit of a backstory about Steven. We know that Steven was a paladin for the Saint of Steel, and in this world, gods are a huge part of it. They kind of coexist together, and there's many different groups of people who believe in very specific things. So we know that Steven is a paladin for the Saint of Steel, but his god ends up dying, and his fellow paladins end up berserking, I guess is the phrase that they would use, and they ended up killing a bunch of people, and in turn, to stop them, they ended up getting killed. Steven and a handful of other fellow paladins ended up surviving, and it's interesting because Steven is sort of that character who has that heart of gold. He's kind of a big teddy bear, but he's a warrior at the same time, and you're seeing that kind of representative in most of the paladins that we meet in this story, and that because their god died, it drove many of them mad. The funny thing is I don't think we're actually going to get a big backstory as to why the god died. There's only been one phrase really uttered about the god dying, and it was somebody speaking about what happened to the paladins and then saying nobody knew that a god could die. And I found that to be all very fascinating, and it's also very fascinating because you get that backstory and then you meet Steven at this different part of his life where he has actually been taken in by the Temple of the Rat. We actually get to meet a priest who worshipped in the Temple of the Rat in Swordheart, and so it's cool to have kind of a footing with what they believe and what they do. The Temple of the Rat is very much entwined with law and kind of function as lawyers, I guess you could say. But Steven and the rest of the paladins, while serving, you know, the Temple of the Rat, they're kind of just bodyguards at this point. And I could be pleasantly surprised, and they do end up giving us that backstory, but we have a murder mystery that kind of entered into the chat. So Steven and Grace have like a weird chance encounter meeting where she's trying to like escape a situation, so she ends up bumping into him and pretending that they're together, and Steven is very much admiring her body and how pretty she is, but also they have like really great banter in the beginning. And at the market, Steven and Grace and one of Grace's friends, Marguerite, ends up accidentally seeing this like thief gone wrong situation, and then the thief tries to poison himself in front of them. And now the story has turned into like this murder mystery, and there's even more things happening because people are now getting their heads chopped off. Don't think I love the pacing so far, but I'm very intrigued by the world. I'm very intrigued by the murder mystery, and I think that I really like Steven and I really like Grace, but because I don't right now care if they get together, I'm just kind of vibing and hoping for the best. I'm hoping that I'll be rooting for them in the end because I want to read this whole series, but at the same time, I'm feeling like I'll be glad I read this, but I won't move on with the series, you know? So we'll see how this goes. I can probably finish this today because I have a few like mindless things to do at work, but we shall see. Hello friends, we've made it to the end of the first episode of the new version of Read It Down, and I wanted to enlighten you that at the end of every episode of Read It Down, much like Love It or List It, I'm going to be unhauling books. So we will get into that in a minute. We will also get into my Paladin's Grace final review. But before that, I got a little package. I don't think this will mean anything to you, but I'm very excited about it. So I got one of the Moft cases. It's basically an invisible phone tripod stand. So because I use my phone a lot to film these days, especially when I'm at work, I thought this would be really, really useful. So that's what it's supposed to do. And I was just watching a bunch of videos about it and different reviews on it, and it just seems like the simplest solution. I just don't trust myself with my camera out in the public. So I did end up getting the green one because I did finally get a new phone case, which is not here yet, but I finally got a new phone case and I felt like this one matched the most with it. And it's MagSafe, so it like goes, it should, in theory, yeah, it goes on the back of your phone. Someone came to my door and I was trying to talk to them, and then my DoorDasher came with my sandwich, and I was like, I'm just gonna eat. But I'm back and we're gonna talk about Paladin's Grace. So I did give you an update on initially how I was feeling, and I'm gonna be honest, like my feelings kind of remain the same. The only thing that shifted for me was that I started rooting for the couple. Like I said previously, I really loved Stephen and Grace as individual characters, but I wasn't fully convinced of their romance. It kind of felt a little bit insta-lovey. And typically, I don't care if characters are instantly attracted to one another, because I think that that's a very real thing. That's a very real response that people have with one another. The thing that got me was Stephen particularly became kind of obsessed with Grace, and we were seeing a lot of that where he was like very protective, he was very obsessive over her, he didn't want other men to talk to her because he would kind of feel jealous. And like in theory, I love all of that, I love the thought of that, but because Stephen and Grace to me at that point in time hadn't really had many interactions or really anything that was connecting them until like the halfway point, it was just hard for me to get on board with. But by the midway point, they were spending a lot of time together. I maintain that I really love the world. I think the religious component in here is super interesting, and it makes me want to continue on in this world because we didn't really get the answers about why Stephen's god died. And in the rest of the series, it's been confirmed, we are going to be following more paladins. And so I'm sure we're going to get the answer about what happened with the god. I just don't know if I care enough to move forward. I had a very enjoyable time with this, but I'm not so enamored with it that I feel like moving on. Like when I finished Sword Heart, I just wanted more. I wanted more of this world. I wanted more characters in this world. But at this point, I just don't know if I care to move on. I don't know that I care about the characters enough to want to move forward, because we very briefly meet the characters that we will eventually be following in the rest of the series. And while they were nice enough characters and they were characters that like made a slight impression on me, it didn't make a big enough impression on me where I'm like, yeah, I need to know more. Really, the only thing I want to know the answer on is why the god died, but I'm sure I could Google that and get the answer. So yeah, stay tuned to see if I ever move on with that series. But we have officially made it to the end of Read It Down. I'm so excited to be doing this again. I do feel like this way of doing it took a lot of pressure off of me, and I've just been really excited to film this the whole time because that's how it felt when I first started Read It Down. But some things just have to change sometimes, and that's okay. So that brings me to the next change that's going to be happening to Read It Down. We're going to be doing an unhaul portion. So for me, the books that end up living on my shelves are 5-star reads or ones that I know that I will reread time and time again. Usually a 5-star read is something that I foresee myself rereading time and time again, and obviously things that I didn't like are not going to live on my shelf. I'm just going to unhaul them. So I'm pretty simple in that way, where it's like, will I reread it and is it a 5-star favorite? That's what my shelves are going to consist of, and that's what I want my library to be, is my favorites. Things that I want to revisit, things that I love seeing on my shelves all the time. So obviously Sword Heart is going to stay. It's gonna stay on the shelves. I loved this. I can totally see myself rereading this. Across the Green Grass Field, this one's hard because this is part of a series, right? And I have, for the most part, liked the majority of the series, but this one isn't like fully connected to the rest of the series, so I do feel okay getting rid of this. Like the more that I'm away from this and the more that I think about it, the more that I'm questioning if Shauna Maguire and I actually are meant to be. So I think I'm falling out of love with not only the series, but Shauna Maguire as a whole, which is very sad because she's very prolific. There's a huge backlog of other books that I was interested in, but I just don't know if I really want to put any more time and energy into Shauna Maguire, sadly. And I think that this was the last one that I own in this series. If not, I may have another one and I will read that, but I think this is the last one that I own in this series. So I am going to be unhauling this, and I may unhaul the entirety of the Wayward Children series because I don't know at this point if I would reread it. And then obviously Paladin's Grace was on my Kindle, so I will be deleting it off my Kindle, but I don't have a book to unhaul for you, so. Also, the really fun part about this is discovering new booktubers to fall in love with. And while I have watched Katie's videos before, I have now watched a ton of her vlogs and I absolutely love her vibe. And this is the really fun part of it all, is like finding new booktubers for myself and possibly for you. Although I think Katie is big enough that you probably already know and love her. But if for some reason you've never checked her out, I will obviously have all of her information linked down below. And I will also link the video that I watched for this video. video. Anyway, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you're also excited about Read It Down. If you're curious about the other versions of Read It Down, like this is your first time ever watching, I will have a playlist down below, and I think there's like 16 episodes in it. So if you're interested in checking out what Read It Down was before this version, please feel free. I would love for you to do that. Otherwise, if you want to leave an emoji, feel free to leave a sword down below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, friends.